everybody. It is Becky Pearson with Pivot Point of View, and today I am joined by, I think, like probably my all-time favorite couple. I always am guaranteed some laughs when I see them at a barrel race. They've been friends for a long, long time, and I'm excited to be able to bring you their story. It's super unique, and they turn out some really nice horses. And I really feel like they're great people and they need their story told. So, welcome to the podcast, Marty and Jessica Leach. Hey, guys.
Hey, good morning, Becky.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. So, I want to have you guys tell your backgrounds. Each one of you have a little different story. And Jess, you grew up in North Dakota. And so, let's start there. Let's start with you. Ladies first, right?
Ladies first, exactly, and youth before age. I did grow up in North Dakota, grew up on a farm ranch, more of a ranch. Both my parents rodeoed. My dad was a steer wrestler. My mom ran barrels. My brother, high school, rodeoed, calf roped in high school, then went on to college and became a bareback rider. Was a very successful bareback rider. So that's about all I knew growing up was rodeo and horses. We did on the ranch work, everything was done horseback at that time. We didn't have side-by-sides yet. So, you know, I think I was probably on a horse before I could walk, probably one of those situations. Then went to high school national finals as a breakaway roper. But I did pretty much every athletic event you could think of in high school and excelled at high jump. So went to the University of Nebraska as a high jumper. Took a hiatus from rodeo at that point. Still did a little bit here and there when I, had time. Through that period and end of high school, I trick rode, and all through college, I trick rode in the summers. And once I graduated, I had met him and stayed down here in Nebraska. And that's when I went back to barrel racing quite a bit more and trying to figure out how I wanted to move forward with that as some type of a career, but it took quite a while to get to that point.
So I want to stop there. So Marty, here you see this drop dead gorgeous. How tall are you, Jess?
I'm 6 foot.
6 foot. You see this 6 foot blonde, gorgeous at the track in Lincoln. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. And
Well, I kind
so,
of heard about her, and I kind of heard about her, so I drove by and had to take a look. And I guess I did kind of pull up and talk to you.
You did.
And next thing you know, I end up shooting a horse for her.
uh
And then we really didn't, I just kind of met her. And then I think the next winter, we talked a little bit more, and then we was at Lincoln, and I said, "Hey, you want to go out for supper?" And I just kind of went from there.
I couldn't lose him.
it's kind of like a parasite. No.
Man.
Sorry, Marty. No. Okay.
Thanks.
Well, so Marty, let's talk about you and where you got your start and catch us up to that point then.
Well, started, I guess, the old, 4-H and all that, going through that deal. And then my folks got into training quarter horses, and they needed somebody to exercise their horses. Of course, we broke all of them ourselves and whatnot. And they started making me gallop them. And I was 12, 13 years old. Man, there's no way. I mean, didn't do it because I liked it, because it was my job. I had to. Well, next thing you know, it gets in your blood. And I was riding races when I was 14, and it just went on from there, escalated. And I think I was 16, I was riding in Peril Mutual races there in Denver, Colorado. And I just kept going from there, and had quite a few injuries, which is part of the game. Like if I could go between year and 2 years without breaking something, I was doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I guess I finally quit in 90, I guess is when I finally quit riding, and had a kid to take care of, and kind of went from there. And Dad always made, Dad shot his own horses. And so when I was a kid, well, I'm 13 years old, I hated it, but I was having to hold them and dress feet and get my butt chewed. The horse wiggled, I was my butt, But yeah, I traveled a lot and seen a lot of stuff, and it's well worth it.
Would you say your dad was the one that taught you how to shoe then, or did you go to shoeing school?
He definitely started me, yes. And when you're a kid, you don't pay attention. You just do it because you have to. Because yeah, I never thought I'd ever do it. And once I kind of always played with it because I always needed a little extra money when I was younger. And I ended up living in California for a couple of years, and I found a really good guy that I worked with him for a couple months. But all along the way, learning, I would try to find on the track. I try to find the best shooter I thought, and they would kind of guide me through it. And I'd go to the trainers that I rode for, and I said, "Well, hey, I'll shoe your pony horse for nothing if you just let me get underneath of him." And I'd have them guys help me, and that's kind of how I went on.
Did you do that because you thought that being a jockey wasn't going to be sustainable, like you didn't want to do that forever, so you knew you needed to have something else lined up, or it just intrigued you that much that you just wanted to learn?
It did intrigue me a bit, but I needed the money. Was the main thing back then.
And a lot of times you were doing it when you were hurt.
Yeah. Well, one time, just a little quick story, was I broke my foot and in the starting gate in New Mexico, and I had to come home, and I ended up riding the meet at Hastings, and I never galloped one horse because my foot was broke, but I could still shoe. And that's how I, because I broke, I was needing the money, But
yeah. Now your body's kind of paying the price for that.
Oh, in a few places.
All right. So now you two go out on your first date, and something kind of sparked there, I assume.
If I remember right, our first date, he'd asked me out, and I was working for a vet on the track at the time. And we were supposed to meet, I don't know what time, but the vet was mad and wouldn't let me off work to go on our first date.
And she's been running late ever since.
I was on time.
Yes, I'm always late.
Okay. All right. So the first time I ever seen you, Jess, was you were trick riding, I think, at Custer County. Maybe before the rodeo or before the bull riding or something. I don't know. I remember seeing you there in Broken Bow, but I don't know what that would have been. But
I don't remember what I did in Broken Bow, but I do remember now that you say that I did trick ride in Broken Bow. I don't remember what event it was for. The trick riding was something. My mom was smart because we'd be out moving cattle when I was young, and I'd be standing up on my horse or dragging underneath of my horse or this and that, just because, you're a kid, you're bored, you've seen it at all the rodeos, so you're going to try to do it. We had a really close family friend that trick rode for years and years and years. And so I went, and I think I was 8th grade going into my freshman year that fall, and went down and learned how to trick ride with her in Kansas. And it really took off. It was a great career. It kind of like Marty with his jockeying, it allowed me to do a lot of traveling. I even went to a Grand Prix jumping out in Washington, D.C. And trick rode there. Quite a culture shock for us. We got out there, and we were the only ones taking care of our own horses. My mom, I was still, I think I was in college at the time, but my mom went with me, and we were the only ones taking care of our own horses. Everyone else had their trainers, and they'd pull up in their limos and get on and get on their jump horses and go in. And so they looked down their noses at us, and we got out there. And I think it was the second performance. I was doing an under the neck, and my horse stumbled and hit me in the chest with his leg and ripped me down underneath of him, knocked the air out of me. And Mom got the horse caught, and I went and got back on the horse and did the trick again and finished the entire performance out, which that's what you do. I mean, I wasn't bleeding anywhere. From there on, they accepted us. They thought we were wonderful people then. I thought, for crying out loud, it takes me darn near killing myself for you guys to accept us. But that's the trick riding was so fun because I saw so many different areas of the equine industry, you know, and got to do different sides of it. It wasn't just the rodeo side of it because you were working with the committees on the back side of it and everything. So you learned a little bit more of the intricacies of the rodeo instead of just going and competing and leaving. So it was always fun to see those sides and get to know the committees and stuff.
Mm-hmm. It always surprised me when I helped, like when I helped put on the Mid-States Rodeo there, the finals there in Broken Bow, like the amount of production behind the scenes and the planning, like to the minute as to how much time everything's going to take and the timing of it. And I think that's a lot of people don't realize that, and how when you see a really well-run rodeo, like how much planning went into that for sure.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. People don't realize that a lot of times. You know, and this is getting maybe a little off topic, but it ties to it with what we're saying. You know, we as barrel racers sometimes, especially when we go to rodeos and stuff, we get really upset about the ground and this and that and so on and so forth, and maybe where we're parked and everything. But that's one thing that when I was trick riding, I worked with those committee members, and so many times they're volunteers. They do not get paid. They're doing it because they love their hometown rodeo and they want to see it be successful. And sometimes what is happening there is out of their control because the contractors have to meet certain time frames in that rodeo, and they have to keep it to 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And as far as ground, that committee usually is trying to do the best they can. They don't always have the knowledge or the tools to do what they can. And they're good-hearted people most of the time. I know that's, you know, sometimes there's guys that are like, they're just barrel racers, but most of the time they want it to be the best. So you got to remember that when you talk to them about it, that they're wanting to do the best for you. It doesn't help to go and jump on someone and chew their butt about things because they're just trying to do the best they can for their event that they love and they put on. But again, sorry, off topic, but
no, I think that's great. I think it's just a really good point to bring up to people. Just, you know, kind of that be kind, you know, yes, you need to, if there's a way that we can improve things, you know, try to go with constructive feedback versus criticism, because like you said, you know, 99 times out of 100, everybody's doing the best they can and they want to see it do well. They, you know, nobody wants to see a horse go out and slip and fall and get hurt, or that person get hurt. But, you know, we've had ground people on here before, and just like, it's more of a lack of knowledge, I think, is the biggest thing. Or like you said, lack of being able to have the right tools to do a good job. And so, you know, if at one point, you know, basically the reason I got on the fair board was because I didn't want to just sit back and bitch about something, and I wanted to do something about it. So like, I really truly do believe that if people want to make a change, they need to get in a position that they can make a change and don't just sit back and gripe about it.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit into Buck That Money. So tell us a little bit about that. That was a stud that Marty, that your dad had, and he was a really cool horse and I know he had a huge impact for you too, and a huge impact on barrel racing here in Nebraska. And so, yeah, let's talk a little bit about him.
Well, mom and dad went up to South Dakota to buy him as a 2-year-old and got him home. Of course, dad, you know, he racing his way, and next thing you know, we're going around barrels and roping on him and doing whatever we can do on him. And featured him, and he was a really neat little horse to have around. I think one time we throwed him in that little trailer to go to Broken Bow, and I think it was a little 14-foot trailer, and I think we had 5 horses in there. We just piled them in there and went.
He was a really cool stud to be around. Every now and then he'd talk, but for the most part, you could have him around any horses. He was just a gentleman. I took him to some rodeos, and he was just you didn't realize you were on a stud, and a lot of people didn't realize it either, and they'd come up on their mares or this and that. But he was a neat horse that just and did anything you asked of him.
Yeah.
He seemed like he had a lot of heart and try every time I ever watched him run. And I feel like he really, whether that was his part in his offspring, but, we had 2 of those mares that both of them just had a ton of heart and try. And so, it was really, and they seemed really willing. The very first one that we had bred our little Rosie mare to him, and the first time I took her around a barrel, like she acted like she already knew it. And I knew she didn't because nobody had ever, and I'm like, holy cow, like she makes me feel like I'm a super trainer, So very willing.
Almost all of those colts were that way. You started them and you would think that they had either seen cattle or seen barrels before. They just wanted a job always, and they were always very willing to do what you asked them. Very trainable.
And so some of the great offspring that buck that money are some of the standout performers. A lot of people know, was it Hope's Money Boy? What was June's horse's name?
Tall Boy.
Tall Boy. Yeah. She called him Tall Boy, but what was his registered name?
His registered name, I don't know that I can answer that at this point. I don't remember for sure.
Yeah, I can't
because
remember.
June had bred him. It was one of her mares, and so we didn't have anything to do with that colt. He wasn't on our place or anything. That was all hers, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
And then you guys had Brownie. Let's talk a little bit about Brownie. Was she probably your guys' standout from Buck That Money? You had a lot of them, but was she probably your top money earner out of him or by him?
Her and Dollar.
Yeah, and I don't remember Dollar's registered name. And Dollar was before Brownie. Brownie's registered name is Rich Money. Dollar, Marty featured him, and I believe he won money at every futurity
but the first one.
That he took him to. And he went to a gal up north Idaho. Yep. And she continued to do very well on him. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. So there was some other very good horses and stuff, but then between him and Brownie, they were probably the
50.
Yeah, 50 ran very well at the futurities too. He went on to a gal here in Nebraska that high school rodeoed and college rodeoed on him and did very well as well.
And we had Taxi.
Yeah.
And I believe he got only run him in one futurity in Broken Bow. I believe he went second. I think he got second in the average, and I think 2 days later he colic and died.
Yeah.
So he was out of June's mare. He was a neat little horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about Brownie. How did she do in the futurities? Was she a good futurity horse?
She was pretty, I don't know, say hot. She wanted to go.
Very intense.
And I entered her in Broken Bow, and she just wasn't ready. And rather than ruin her, we just backed her off and went the next route.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And actually, Jess, I think we finally figured out that with my legs versus her legs, that mare liked Jess better. I think I was maybe more into her more with my legs, and Jess she liked Jess better riding her. It was more relaxed.
She never lost her intensity though. She was very intense, very, a lot of times, if I had to warm up in a small place, people would also be warming up, like at rodeos, like say Denver, you have a very small place to warm up there. Other girls would be warming up. When I'd start loping circles, they would seem to kind of clear off and wait until I was done. She was very intense. Yeah.
And she was more of a free runner, right? Because I remember we were talking one time about saddle size and Jess, you have this little tiny butt. And you were like, well, I ride Brownie in like 17-inch cutting saddle. And so like and you were like the first one that told me like I want a big saddle seat so I can get back and I can be on my butt and back on her and sit on my butt so that she is using her butt and since she was I assume it was since she was such a free runner, you wanted to really make sure that you were back in the buggy versus being up on her because that wouldn't have been a good combination. Is that right?
Right. And for years, I did run her in a smaller saddle and we struggled. And where we struggled was to the first most of the time. She was such a hard runner to the first. Like, I mean, almost scare you how hard she ran to the first. But we also, and I think some of this I caused, as each horse we make, we learn from each one. She wanted to block me out just a little bit with her shoulders going to the first, and that would cause us to get by that first barrel a lot. And as we watched videos together, we got to noticing that in a smaller saddle going in there, my feet would get behind me instead of me being down in the saddle and her out in front of me where she could keep those shoulders elevated and free. And I think actually I was talking to Bo Hill and we talked about it and we were discussing saddles. And I think that's where I got the idea to go to like a cutter type saddle. And so I found myself, I think it was a 17-inch ranch cutter. And it was just like I was sitting in a chair on her. And that was when she and I felt the best running to the first barrel, because when I started her to that first barrel, she was up in front of me and those shoulders were free and I could keep her up. And then she would just nail that first barrel. But if I got up over that front end and locked that front end down, that's when we had trouble. But yeah, she was such a free runner. There were times like your eyes would water running to the first barrel. It was almost just scary.
All or nothing.
Yeah, it was. And that was a little bit the demise to the mare. That's because she never knew how to preserve herself. She ran so hard. And the first injury we had on her was a deep digital tear down in her foot. We rehabbed her from that. And then, she got to trying so hard again. And I think the last injury that caused us to retire was some collateral ligaments in the same foot, of course. But she just had so much heart, so much try. And she was a mudder. I mean, you'd roll up, that's how much try she had. You'd roll up to a rodeo and other girls were like, oh my gosh, that's scary ground. And if it wasn't that deep, sucky mud, like if it was like water standing on top, I was like, we got this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she'd just go in and it didn't matter what it was. She was going to run and turn hard. Mm-hmm. So a super fun mare, gave me a lot of opportunities and taught me a lot.
So yeah, because you qualified for Badlands Circuit Finals on her a number of times. You, the American, you went to semifinals on her, correct?
Yes, went to the semifinals, qualified out of a barrel race in Minnesota, and then went down to the semifinals. We were, I think, 5th in the first round of slack at the semifinals. They're to be extremely tough, but she could run with the top of them. It was just a matter of always putting it together and being at the right place at the right time with her. The circuit finals, I think it was 3 or 4 times that she got qualified. She got to run twice. I think the 3rd time and maybe the 4th time that she qualified. She qualified, but then was injured by the time we got to the circuit finals. So, but she was wicked in that little pin up there at Minot.
So she gets injured and then you got to start breeding her. So you chose a few different studs. So tell me which directions you've crossed her on.
Well, excuse me. it was end of July. No, it was August. First part of August, I went to a rodeo in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and I realized she was off again. And I'm like, I'm done. And, you know, because she, even when she was hurt, she would try so hard. And I'm like, I'm done making this mare do this. And I told Marty on the way home, he's like, well, let's breed her. I'm like, well, it's August. And he's like, so what? Let's breed her. All right. So we called Lisa, who owns Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, and said, I know it's late in the year. She said, sure. And so we bred her, and that time we had her carry. Before that, we had decided we wanted to try to get some colt. We were going to do an embryo transfer, and we tried to Can Man, Freckles to Fame. She just wouldn't. We had one embryo flush, but we couldn't get it to heartbeat. And so it just didn't seem like that was working. And so that's when we decided, let's just have her carry when she was injured again. And that took immediately, and she carried to full term. And that's when we got our first colt, Ain't an Angel, LA May, which I'm futurting right now. And then we crossed her 2 more times with Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. So we've got 3 babies, full siblings. We thought about going to other studs again. The last colt that she had, it was a really hard delivery on her. So again, we'd have to go back to probably embryo transfer, and kind of such a hard deal with her. We did try, it didn't work again. And so we're kind of just weighing our options again now. We'd sure like to get another baby out of her, but not quite sure how we're going to go about it.
Yeah, that embryo transfer is, I mean, when it works, it's great, but it is a lot of money and a lot of time spent going back and forth to the vet. You know, we did an Ain't Seen Nothing Yet out of our good pole mare. And man, that was like, I had so much anxiety about that. I mean, I had $10,000 in that baby before he ever hit the ground. And then he had to be pulled, and then he had to go to Iowa State for a week. And so here I have this colt that's a month old, and I probably have $20,000 in him, you know? And so it's, you know, that's kind of, I shouldn't say worst case scenario, but you know, I mean, that's kind of horse breeding. You never know what's going to happen there. And so
How bad you want one?
yeah, exactly. How bad you want it. So, you know, I'm thankful that we have a really great colt, or knock on wood. I mean, he's only 2, but thankful that it's worked out so far. So, but yeah, you really have to weigh those options when you're not a multi-millionaire and just trying to breed. So,
yeah, it's a great option, but you have to have the money to make it happen, and be able to be fine with your money being put out there and not getting anything in return at times. And that's hard. That's hard.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Especially for us working folks.
Right.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit I want to talk about Big John, and I want to talk about Ellie Mae. And then I kind of want to talk about your guys' philosophy on training these horses. So since we started talking about Ellie Mae, let's talk a little bit more about her.
So Ellie Mae, we were there when she was born. And of course, Brownie's first baby, you know, I expect this mare or this colt when it's born to be the most perfect, amazing baby ever. She comes out and she looks like she's got like white eyes. She has no color. She's this light palomino. And I'm like, oh my word, what is this? And I'm like, it's okay. It's Brownie's baby. It doesn't matter. It's Brownie's baby. It'll be fine, you know. And turns out she darkened up quite well and is very pretty now, but it was Marty laughed at me all the time. He's like, you should have saw your face.
I said, well, you got it on vinyl. She's about to ball.
But and it was just one of those things, you know, you have those babies, and you're going through this right now with your colt. You can't hardly wait to get them to the age where you're on them and you can do something with them. You know, you have all these big, huge hopes and dreams, and you're just sure they're going to be the next superstar, you know, that because you've waited so long to get this out of them. And fortunately for me, she has lived up to a lot of my dreams. Basically all of them. She's been amazing. She's been easy all the way through. She's a lot like her mother in so many ways, but ain't seen nothing yet. Took that intensity of Brownie and just brought it down just a notch to where it's like, it's so usable now. All that run and speed of Brownie is still there, but that laid back side of Slick has come through. And it's a great cross. It's a great cross. So exciting. She was easy to start. Marty started her for me, put the first several rides on her for me. And that's how we kind of do our program. He starts everything here for us, puts the first rides on them. And I kind of took her over after that. And she was just easy. Like, I can remember as a 2-year-old loping her with one hand, just loping circles with her. And she just did it. She's just a natural at things. As we got going, I think she got bored with things and she started throwing things at me like, well, let's see what happens if I buck, jump sideways, or do this. She likes to play.
It seemed with her that barrels was a game to her. I mean, it was fun as a game. And I've really never seen a horse act like she does on the barrels when you start them. It was just she had all the talent. It didn't matter if she'd be looking over there and she'd still just turn. Yeah. I mean, it was just a game.
Yeah. And for the longest time, you'd lope her through and you come around the second barrel and she'd not go to buck and like hog her head and buck, but she'd go to crow hopping. And I looked at Marty and I said, what am I supposed to do with this? I said, I wonder if she's like got kissing spine. What's going on? He's like, nope. He said, I think it's a game. She's just playing. He said, I think when you get to like asking her, it's all going to go away. And sure enough, but to this day, every now and then when I go to exhibition her, she'll come around the second barrel and just start hopping around like she's in playing. And so now I'm to the point with it that I don't let her get like strong about it, but if she plays and I'm fine with it because that's her. But yeah, everything is easy for her. Yeah, easy.
And so far she's won quite a bit already in the fraternity year. I mean, we're in almost to October, so we're getting towards the end of it. Do you guys know her stats, like her lifetime's earnings so far?
She's right at 58,000.
You guys haven't went to a lot of, like, you don't live down south. You aren't going to every fraternity out there. So really limited kind of in the fraternity entries.
Right. I think she has been entered in 10 fraternities. Mm-hmm. And so, I was supposed to go to the Ruby Buckle out in Utah. We didn't get to go to that. She got sick. She didn't get to run in the Colorado Classic. She was sick out there, so we had like a time frame in there where that kind of kept us from running at some of the bigger ones that we wanted to go to. But yeah, she has since July, when we started back after she was sick, I think 5 states was our first run back after she was sick. She has placed and won money at every fraternity we've been to.
And then we have Pink Buckle coming up. Any other fraternities, anything else, that big stuff that she's going to be in?
I think we'll also go to the Oklahoma City fraternity the first part of December. That's the last fraternity for this year's 4 and 5-year-olds to finish out their year. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. Living in Nebraska, that's always a little bit tricky, but we'll do the best that we can to keep her legged up and go. I may, to keep her going, we may try our hand at one rodeo. They have that rodeo in Brookings, South Dakota. May go up there, try our hand at that, see what she does. Not going to expect much of anything, completely different atmosphere for her, but and then just try to hit a few other runs just to keep her wind built up and keep her in running shape between Pink and Oklahoma City. Otherwise, then she'll probably go on a really good break. She'll probably have the majority of the winter off and let her just be a horse, and bring her back for her Derby year. So kind of excited about that.
Yeah. And you have a Derby horse this year, Big John, right? You call him Big John, VC Roc the Clock. Is that his name?
Big John. Yep, that's correct. He derbied last year quite a bit. He's been a fun horse. He had a fantastic futurity year. I had great plans of rodeoing on him this year. I think he's going to be phenomenal in the big outdoor pins. Had kind of a hiccup with some vet work that was done. And so he's had most of the year off, just kind of hanging around being the farm mascot right now. But he's he's one of those big old horses that kind of does everything and is just game for anything. We bought him as a yearling. Marty saw him and he's like, there's this big colt that I think you'll really get along with. And I said, all right. So we went and took a look at him. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going to be huge. And he's like, I know, I think you'll fit him. And so we bought him, and he was also another easy one to start. He just kind of did everything real easy and just took to everything super easy. But, he has that gelding mentality, just like, okay, we'll get along and we'll do what we want to do, what you want to do. And yeah, so he's a really nice head horse as well. Marty has roped off of him, and he's a lot of fun.
And Marty, you had a nice horse. Well, you've had a lot of nice horses, but let's talk a little bit about, you had Ames. You guys won some dirty money last year. And then you didn't have one necessarily this year, right? Is that correct?
I hauled him to some derbies.
Yep.
And he was just he was probably one of the most athletic horses ever thrown the leg over. And I thought his futurity year, we're gonna win some big money on him. But it just took, one of them horses that they'll teach you that, he just wasn't quite ready. He was immature yet. And it took him a lot of time to get mature enough to handle the places that we'd went. I mean, he would look, and not that he'd buck or nothing like that. He was kind of a watchy looking at stuff. And that interfered him a lot his futurity year. But then he started clicking and think, yeah, I can kind of do this, and stuff just quit, bothering him. He was probably one of the horses that was scared of a cow that I've never witnessed in my life. One could just shake looking at a cow when he had roping steers in his next pen, but you could rope on him. It took some doing, but we got him over it. And then we end up selling him Rapid City.
Yeah. He went to a great home out in Wyoming. A young college gal has him, and she's doing great on him. Yeah.
And it's always good to hear that when you sell a horse that people are happy. I mean, we try to put everything out there, what they are, what the holes are, what this and that. And so there's no surprises, and we want people to come back.
Well, that's, we've bought, we had Roni from you guys, didn't come directly, but that I wanted to talk about that because I feel like you guys turn out a very user-friendly horse, that I had a horse that was so wickedly talented, but he would drop and turn on a barrel and I would knock way more barrels than what I could ever get around, it seemed like, with him. And I was so frustrated. And you guys so graciously loaned me Roni to just go have some fun on. And she was so easy. It would literally, I'd never been on a horse that you could just point and kick, and she actually was fast and you could do that. And so she ended up going to some friends of ours, and their granddaughter she had never barrel raced, but she just got on there and just rode the hair off of her, and man, they clicked, and they did really well together. And then we had the opportunity to buy the mare for Gracie, and Gracie just got up there and ki-eyed and but old Roni just did her thing. And so like you guys turn out some very user-friendly horses. And so um you don't complicate things, I guess. And I think it's great that the two of you, you have very different body types. And so like the two of you can get on and feel things and be able to bounce ideas off of each other and try, like you guys said, Brownie preferred Jess's feel to yours, Marty. And so like let's talk about that. Like um was that a very hard process? How do you guys do that without like trying to kill each other in the process of
We would love to say that every day we have smiles on our faces. But honestly, for the most part, we have gotten really good at the point of if we're in the arena riding together, one will be watching the other, and we're to the point where we can kind of see sometimes what a horse needs that the other person maybe isn't doing, and we can work through it. I mean, we've all been in those moments where things are a little bit heated if you're working on something, and so you don't accept it maybe the first time, but you think about it that night and yep, I get it. And we're also very good about getting on each other's horses a lot, and feeling, because so many times you can think you see something, but you get on and it feels differently. And it's a little bit harder for me to break one free in the rib cage. Marty can break one free in the rib cage so much faster than me.
Well, I think because of my length.
Exactly.
And I ride more with my legs.
He does.
Than she does.
Yep.
Because I mean, obviously her legs will go down further where her feet ain't in them like mine are.
Mm-hmm. And I think another huge aspect to our program is we may not like competitively rope on everything that comes out of here, but everything usually has either at least pin roped, and most everything comes out of the box behind something as well. And allows those horses to figure out pressure in a different area, allows them to figure out how to use their body differently, and rate everything. And he is so good at working them through, because in the roping side, they have to figure out that pressure in the box. He is so good at working them through that period of time in the box and not making it stressful, but just working them through that intensity that they get to in that area.
Well, I think those are all great points. I know, like when both girls were at home and we would ride together, it was so good to have somebody else there with eyes on you that isn't afraid to say, hey, I think you need to do something different. Or, like we would swap around horses a lot, and then you could, once you get on there, you can kind of feel what's the true story, and so then to be able to say, okay, yeah, I felt that when I got on, or, even like I was even in differences in saddles, like I was having some back pain, and Emma's like, well, Mom, my back hurts when I ride your saddle too. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe it isn't just me being old. Maybe it's my saddle, So it's great to have somebody that you can ride with. And if you don't have that built in your family, like to be able to go with somebody that you can have them get on your horse and just get that feedback, because if you always ride by yourself, I just think you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage for sure.
100%. The other thing that helps our program so much is if we're running a horse and you're having an issue in a run, and it happens more than 2 or 3 times, we'll put the other person on to make a run on them, because so many times as a jockey, you get stuck in what you think that horse is doing or needs. And for someone else to get on it and actually make a competition run on them, they can feel something or even do something different in that run that can help that issue. Maybe not correct it in that exact time frame, but then they have that feel, they know, and we can work together to figure out what to do in that run. And we've done that a lot of times. Yeah. We've here, take this horse and run it for a while, see what you think, see what we've got. And neither of us are above like, the horse is working great under you. You stay with the horse, you know, and let's keep it that way. We've both done that a lot.
And another thing is we've kind of learned that, you know, you can watch somebody ride a horse and take them, well, they need to do this or that. Well, you need to get your butt on there and see, and it's a whole different ball game when you're on there. You know, we have learned that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that then helps those horses be more versatile when they go on to that next person. You know, if they've only ever had one rider on their back, you know, then they get super confused when they go somewhere else. But, you know, I think having the diversity of the two of you really helps them be able to be successful with somebody else. And so, you know, kudos to you guys on that for sure.
Right. And, you know, I had another 5-year-old this year that I sold, and the gal that bought her she's a shorter girl. And she looked at me and she said, well, is she going to be all right with my legs? I'm like, well, yeah, Marty's rode her. She knows the feel. I'm not the only one that's been on her. And, you know, that was very reassuring to her. She's like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. You know, and you had said also that, like, when you guys got Roni, that she was just easy. And when you borrowed her, you could get on, just point and kick. That's something that has been said between us so many times, is that we want to make horses that other people can get on and they don't have to work hard to ride. Mm-hmm. You don't have to, you know, blink your eyes twice, stand on your head and sneeze to make them turn the first barrel. You know, we want them to be that type of horse. And not only just for the people that are buying them, we want them to be that way for us. We don't want to have to make it hard for us to run them either. I mean, and so that's something that we have said for years and years and years, that we want to try to keep this as simple as possible so that the next person that gets on these horses has fun and that we have fun.
And we hope if they buy a horse from us, if they go and do good and win more money than we did.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, you guys had helped me. I mean, you guys have helped me so much over the years, but like, I think one thing for me that has been a game changer on whether it's a rady horse or a free runner, you know, Jess, you were the first one that kind of brought up the approach that you'd learned at Lisa Lockhart's clinic of sitting down early. And I think a lot of people miss that point. Can you explain that a little bit? And do you still kind of use that philosophy and dive into that a little bit deeper? Because I do think that helps horses work more independently, at least from what I've found.
Yeah. And so I am taking Lisa Lockhart's words here, you know, because this is something that I learned from her at her clinic, but I do use it, and I used it so much on Brownie. That's when I picked it up. Lisa explained it that you need to break everything apart when you're teaching them kind of rate going into those turns. So what she had us do is you would be, let's say we're approaching the first barrel, you know, like maybe halfway to the first barrel, you would sit. And that is the first cue to the horse. But when you start this, the horse probably isn't all right. So she sat, you know, and melted down into the saddle, may not react to it. So a couple strides later, you are going to ask with your, I think if I do it right, yep, you're going to say, whoa, with your voice. And the horse still may not 100% take it. And then a couple strides later, you're going to ask with your hands and ask them to turn. Well, we've broke that apart in 3 different steps. And so the horse now, as you repeatedly do that, the horse is able to put it together. Oh, wait, she just melted into the saddle. Next, she's going to say something to me, and then she's going to ask me with my hands. And they're able to put that together instead of it all happening just at one spot and being such an intense move in one spot. When I first heard it, I thought, well, gosh, this is going to teach a horse to start rating way too early. It doesn't, because you put the finished product together where you want it in your approach to the first. And it just gives that horse time to put those pieces together. And it's easy for them to relax into it and understand it. And it keeps it stress-free for them too. I did that over and over on Brownie to the first barrel at like a walk when I was rehabbing her that year, a walk and a trot. And it made such a huge difference. It took that panic away from her. It took all that braciness away from her. And I've done it on ready horses too, that I'm having troubles with, like keeping them correct in spots, and just did that. And it has relaxed them, even though they were ready, but it allowed them to figure out how to gather and not such an intense gather there. It was a great philosophy. And yeah, kudos to Lisa for teaching it to me. And I've regurgitated it to a lot of people along the line.
Yeah, I love the philosophy. After you and I had talked, I did go up there to one of her clinics, and I took a ready horse and I took a free runner, and I thought, okay, because I want to take two different styles and see, you know, because I felt like I had to ride them differently, but I didn't have to, because like the free runner, it was like you were putting your turn signal on, telling him, like you said, it gave them a chance to think about, okay, look, she's sitting now, I have to shorten my stride. And then on the
Mhm.
radier horse, I was finding that he was, like people want to say, oh, I want to stay up, I want to stay up, stay up, stay up. Well, you're on your front end, they're on their front end,
Yep.
and you cannot get that shoulder up, because when they commit to that
Yep.
turn or they drop that shoulder, if you're up there on their shoulders, you can't lift them up. They're all locked up. Like you had said, like lock up, and she would close you out going in there. But if you're back there on their hind end, that frees up that front end, and you can lift that and keep them going and have them be more honest with that turn. And so, like, I don't help that many people, but the girls and I, we've definitely used that throughout the years, and it doesn't necessarily change. And then taking that a step further, when we started doing a lot of stuff with Phil Haugen, and the horsemanship stuff that he teaches, is not a barrel racer, but he always would teach them the one rein stops. And so the one rein stops, when you do that, it's broke down into the four components of: you're sitting early, so that's their first,
Mhm.
signal, and then you put your outside hand on the horn, and then you get your feet out of them, and then you engage the bridle rein, and you pull them over to, the side, and you just wait on them until their feet quit moving and they get soft in the bridle reins. Well, that's the exact same sequence of events
Principle.
that you have going to the first barrel. And so it's not a new concept. Like as soon as they start to feel you go into those moves, then they start to shorten their stride and they realize something's happening. And I just love how it kind of all plays together.
Right. Yep. It's not coming up. It's not inventing something new. It's just making it easy for the horse and making it simple, and doing the same repetitive things a lot of the times. Training barrel horses isn't always fun. It's repetitive.
Yeah. Yeah. And doing it to the point where you're so bored, but that's the
Yep.
consistency that that horse needs. Mhm.
Yep. Yep. And some need more than others, and it just depends on, and that's the other thing is reading each horse, and you've been on a lot of horses, we've been on a lot of horses, and you learn that each horse, like some horses may take so many times of sitting here, saying whoa here, asking here. The next one you do it 3 times and they've got it. And it's just, reading that horse. But I agree so much that from one discipline to the next, like Phil Haugen is your basic horsemanship. The basic horsemanship has to be there before we can run barrels. They have to have that base underneath of them before you can go run hard around 3 barrels, or even think about starting them there. So,
Mhm. Yeah. And then, like some people are afraid to sit early because they think their horse will shut down. Well, you were a great one to say the analogy of think about squeezing them like a tube of toothpaste, trying to shoot them forward out in front of you. So, that's how just a little tweak of your horsemanship and your body uses the same principles, but then can accommodate for a different style per se.
Right. And I'm going to regress just a little bit. I grew up running barrels and I had a mare that was phenomenal. I went to the circuit finals when I was in grade school up in North Dakota. She was amazing. I was tiny. I was little. I was like Dusky Lynn, like tiny little thing up there. She didn't even know I was there. So all I knew, because she was a radio horse, all I knew was to get up over and hustle. Well, I couldn't at that size. I didn't block shoulders out. There wasn't enough weight. I didn't have that effect on horses. Fast forward to when I'm 30 some years old and I have all this length to me in these legs. Now I'm trying to figure out how to control these shoulders on these horses. And I'm struggling. I'm struggling so much because I am still riding like I'm 13 years old. I'm clear up over a horse. I don't know what I'm doing. Rhonda Richardson, she kept telling me, my great friend Rhonda, she said, you got to get behind your horse. Your horse has to be in front of you. I could not for the life of me figure out what she was trying to tell me. It took me forever. And finally, I was on an old gelding that we have. He's still here. Stinger is his name. I mid-state Nebraska State rodeoed on him for years. And I was at a rodeo, and I don't even remember what happened, but I left the second and I rode to the third, and I never got up off of my seat. Like I sat in the saddle and hustled him all the way up there. And this horse sucked down and turned that third barrel the hardest he'd ever turned it. He was a horse that, because I was up over him, he would lose his hip in his turns. And I felt that, and I thought, oh, I know what Rhonda's talking about. And it was just, you have to feel it sometimes to get it. And that's when I started coming and figuring out like that analogy of you have to keep that horse in front of you. And like you said, like squirt him out like a tube of toothpaste, like you're squirting him out from between your legs, because that's how you know that you're on their hind end. If you're riding their motor, that front end can't lock up, can't do anything. And it took me so long and it was such a struggle, and that's something that now when I tell other people that, and you can see it go in and it bounces around in their head. They're like, okay, I think I know what she's saying. And it's so hard. It's the hardest concept to verbalize to someone. It's such a hard concept to verbalize to someone, but
it's not easy to figure out.
No, it's not. It's not an easy thing to figure out. If we could all ride like Ashley Schaefer and have that feel of riding that hind end so well, she's phenomenal at it. But what I have found is I train it, but I have rode the way I ride in competition for so long that I don't always do it in my runs, but I train it so much that my horses allow me to not be perfect in my runs. But I've gotten better in my runs as well, because I train my horses the way I train them now, and I ride that way when I'm training them. So my body is getting better, but you still revert back to old habits, no matter how hard you try not to. But that's something that people need to keep in mind too, is if you can train your horses correctly, even though you don't do everything correct in a run, your training will come through and they will be more forgiving in the run to you. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I learned. And it's that process of trying to get a horse in front of me. That's been a huge concept and a huge game changer for me. Huge game changer.
All right. Well, one last question. Is there some advice that you guys wish you'd have known back, let's say 20 years ago, that you'd love for people to know that you wish somebody would have told you way back in the day?
I think one of the big things I have learned is that, yes, we're doing this to make money, and we're doing this we're all competitive and we all want to win. But I have found myself in the last couple of years finding more of the fun in it. And I think that's something that young girls need to keep in mind. Just because it's a bad run doesn't mean tomorrow's going to be bad. Take your 2-3 minutes, be upset about it, and then turn around and just enjoy the rest of the day. Have fun with it.
And they always make another jackpot.
They do.
They do.
And one thing I think we really try to do on the barrel horses is we try to make it fun for them.
Yep.
They're not going to get drilled. Yeah. 1 or 2 times, do something else. Next day, we might be doing poles, or we might be roping on them the next day. Mm-hmm. We switch it up a lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I think the deal is that well, we don't like to get up and go to work every day.
Yeah.
And I think on a young horse, you hammer that sucker every day going around in barrels, it's a job.
Yeah.
Pretty soon he's going to give you the finger and say, I'm done.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think that's all great words of advice, and I can't wait for people to listen to this so that they can see what an awesome couple you guys are. And thank you so much for your friendship over the years. And I'm gonna get teary talking about this, but no, I appreciate you guys.
Oh, thank you,
All right.
Becky.
Thank you guys. And as always, everybody, let your health and your discipline be the pivot point to your success.